Well, good morning, everyone. I'm delighted to be joined today by Jason Delany, who has been with Staycity since its inception in March 2004. As Director of Sales and Marketing, a position he held for 12 years as he progressed to the role of Director of Brand, Product and Marketing. During this time, Jason has successfully helped Staycity expand into new territories, with recent new openings in Italy and Germany, along with a successful portfolio in Ireland, France and the UK. Jason was also responsible for the launch of the company's new premium brand, Wild, Aparthotels by Staycity in London in 2018, which has since seen further expansion into Berlin and Edinburgh. Prior to this, Jason held key senior management roles in the hotel sector, as well as working abroad for Marriott in California. Jason, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, James. How are things on your side of the pond?
Not bad. I mean, not bad at all. We are thinking, certainly the advice that we're getting from government and health organizations is coming out of this pandemic period, Jason. So what are your thoughts on that then? I mean, are we coming out of it? Is there worse to come? What are you positioning yourselves for?
Yeah, I mean, that's God, if I only had this whole Mystic Meg thing going on, that I could look at another 3-4 months down the line. But certainly from where we came from back in mid-March, when we were closing down our offices, the assumption at the time when this pandemic reared its head was that we would have a V-shaped sort of recovery. So initially we would sort of fall off the cliff, fall off very hard, very fast. And then in about 3-4 months' time, we would rise as quickly as we fell down. As I speak today, 4 months later, clearly that's not looking anywhere near the case. I think when we tracked China initially through the STR Global Stats, they had hit an all-time low of occupancies in early February of about 7% occupancy. Today in China, that picture has got more encouraging. Probably supported by a lot of domestic travel in terms of both leisure and corporate. They would do strong domestically there. I think when I last checked, those occupancies were creeping at about 50-55%, which gives us hope. That said, there's still, while we've opened most of our properties now, I think all of our properties at this stage, we're seeing encouraging signs, James. The only thing is, I suppose we still need to exercise caution. We heard the news coming out of the UK with Leicester City about a lockdown. Only yesterday, I think I read in Melbourne, they were going into another lockdown as well. I think they had 200 new cases confirmed inside 24 hours. So when you read things like that, you're thinking we certainly have come a long way, but what we've done 3-4 months ago is the worst still ahead. Who knows? Again, if I could look into that crystal ball, but based on what we know now with our properties, at the time when we closed our offices, a lot of our properties did close down. Some of them did remain open to essential workers, but we're seeing some encouraging signs, to be fair. Our property in Berlin, again, Germany would have a strong domestic demand for travel, and that's evident in what we're seeing in the figures. That's been encouraging. Our properties in France, Marne-la-Vallée, right by Disney, and I think Disney reopened the parks on July 15th. Marseille, Lyon, we're seeing encouraging signs there, and even Venice, I have to say. So in terms of the UK, London, we feel, is still a bit sluggish, with the exception of our property there in Greenwich. York and Edinburgh are doing, they're starting, it's nothing huge right now, but there is a bit of a heartbeat coming back in. And then in terms of our Dublin properties, having only recently sort of reopened as well, we haven't, unlike the UK, we're due to publish our travel corridor on the 20th of July. I believe in the UK, that travel corridor goes live from July 10th. And hopefully with that, the hope is we'll see a little bit more demand, and that'll encourage us further. But again, just to exercise caution, I mean, we're seeing, you only have to look at America, they still have yet to get a grip on this virus, and that's not a good thing for the rest of us. China, although there were certain areas of China that were, the numbers were starting to come up again, I think they're working hard to control them again. But clearly this virus, it isn't going away anytime soon, that's for sure. We know the new rules of engagement, of course, by way of social distancing, keeping our hands clean. And then there's this great debate here about the face masks over here. They're mandatory on public transport, but they haven't legislated for it just yet, so they're not getting 100% compliance right now. But if we can follow the rules of the game, whereby this virus is concerned, maybe, but that'll take a lot of discipline. And we've seen some shocking pictures come out, of certain countries. And we opened up our pubs over the weekend, and we had some scenes ourselves. So they've really got to really emphasize that message, the stay safe message, to help us all in the long run. So yeah, it'll be an interesting one.
And I'm doing a lot of these.
You would have caught sight of that European Serviced Apartment report there just last month. And I think their prediction for the European Serviced Apartments, or for the hotels, that RevPAR was to decline this year, I think 37%. But then they're feeling that it'll rise sharply, 41% for next year, but not returning to pre-COVID levels that we saw in 2019 until 2022. So, yeah, it'll be interesting, but that's notwithstanding the caveat to all that is if there's no further lockdown and travel restrictions and things like that. So we're still in that space of the unknown. Certainly we know a lot more than we did 3-4 months ago, and what we've got to do around this virus. But the next 3-4 months will be fairly telling if we go into a second wave, and touch wood, we won't. But so far, since we've reopened, we're seeing some encouraging signs, and we're just staying positive in that regard.
From a Staycity perspective then, prior to the pandemic and all of the challenges we've had over the last few months, there was another opening I was reading about with Staycity in another market within Europe, and the week later there was another opening from another market within Europe. You guys are clearly very aspirational and ambitious in terms of your strategy for development over the coming years. Presumably that's still considering. What are your plans? Have they been impacted in any way?
Yeah, so that's a very good point. No, so Staycity, we had always and still do have our 5-year business plan whereby the end of the year 2024 we would hope to be operating and in pipeline having 15,000 units. Currently, we operate just about 3,000 apartments, and we've got signed pipeline of another 3,500 to 4,000. So we're nearly hitting the 7,000 mark. And next year was always going to be a big year for Staycity. As it stands, we are on track to open 5 more properties. One of those properties will be in Manchester, which will be at Manchester Northern Quarter. That comes off the back of an announcement last week, James, where we got planning permission for a new scheme in Manchester in Deansgate. So it'll be our fourth Manchester scheme when you add in the one that we have at St. Peter's Square, which will be our premium brand property. Then we will have 2 properties in Dublin, which is where our head office is in our home market, on Francis Street and Mark Street. And then we grow more legs in France with Bordeaux, opening next year too. And then we will open up another Wild in North Wharf Gardens in London. So, I mean, it's going to be a big year, and nothing has changed. That's the strange thing. Through lockdown, our design team have been heavily engaged with all the project consultants on these new openings. So it's pretty much full steam ahead as far as that is concerned. And if I take a look into 2022, at the moment we're scheduled to have about 6 to 7 new openings then. And again, nothing has changed there. So yeah, you're reading the right articles. All right, there is, there's a new city, which is great. And I mean, to be honest with you, through all of this, obviously there were concerns how that might take shape, but how it might take shape. But no, to be honest with you, James, it's still full steam ahead.
Well done. And I use an opportunity. You and I talk about accreditation quite a bit, Jason. And 7.5 years ago, I think it was, nearly 8 years ago, I stood on stage at our conference and I launched the ISAAP, as it was presented at the time, accreditation product that we were going to put our members through. Mix of feedback, as you'll remember, from elation right through to severe criticism. It wasn't the right time, it wasn't the right thing to do. Well, we're 7 years on and we've stuck by it, and now accreditation seems to be at the forefront of many different organizations. So we are seeing quite some significant move towards differentiation, let's call it that. And for us, I think one of the biggest challenges we're working towards is creating demand and creating awareness for organizations that can differentiate themselves from the risks that are out there. So how do you think, certainly from Staycity's perspective and your thoughts, how do we as an industry raise awareness of this demand to the buyer in the process and the opportunity of choosing accredited organizations over others?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, yeah, the ISAAP you mentioned 7.5 years ago, and I remember attending, I think it might have been one of the very first conferences. I mentioned this to you a while back in, was it Park Inn in Heathrow? It could have been 10, 11 years ago, a long time ago. So to see all the work that has been done, and full credit to you, James, I have to say, for the last 7.5 years with the accreditation program, that was a huge body of work. And just we saw benefits of that only recently by way of the initiative that you drove the last 2 or 3 months with the emergency housing support scheme. So that was one that we sort of, possibly not directly but indirectly, we got a benefit from that, which was great to see. Also, I know you've worked tirelessly over the years, like with ISAAP, with the various alliances with Visit Britain, Tourism Alliance, the European Relocation Association, the AA, and many others, which has been great. And that's really magnified our sector to these bodies and spread the message out. And then one that really excites me with ISAAP will be the Corporate Buyers Group, which I know that initiative is due to kick off, which has got great currency for all members, I have to say, and we're really excited about coming on board for that one. From our own point of view, I suppose, as an operator, our job then is to further echo that message in our own dealings. You know, when we're dealing with guests that are delivered, and then we have a responsibility once they come in and sample our product, versus certainly the hotel sector, that they have the very best experience that they can have. I think now in this world of COVID, never has our product been more relevant in terms of the practicing of social distancing, cleanliness standards, and obviously that has to be validated, and that's what the ISAAP Accreditation program gives us. There's a duty of care, a due diligence behind it, and I think it's important all the members bolt onto that, and that's only going to serve us well as we go ahead over these uncertain times. So yeah, no, it's been great.
And I think, you know, what we've been doing for a long time is recognizing that we are all collectively in the hospitality world. This is about the customer and the customer's experience. And you've heard me talk about how important it is to make sure the customer receives what they're expecting. And that's sort of what we're trying to do with accreditation. But looking ahead then, I mean, this is interesting when we talk about crystal balls and how we could possibly understand what's coming around the corner, but trying to look ahead, we have to plan to get out of this period. What is it that Staycity are going to do to remain competitive when it comes to that customer expectation? You guys are very clearly focused on the customer experience. We know that with all the work that you've been doing, all the support you've been giving us. But what does that mean over the next few years, and how will it look for you at Staycity?
Yeah, that's a very good point. I mean, over the last few years, we've put in great work. Our CEO, Tom Walsh, and our Chief Operating Officer, Keith Freeman, they're very customer-centric, guest-centric, driven people. This has been reflected a lot since 2013. I think our external satisfaction scores were averaging about 80%. As of last year, 2019, and over the last 6 years, that drove up to 89%. And in terms of our new openings in markets like Berlin, on Booking.com, that property is currently scoring 9.4 out of 10, as is our new Edinburgh Wild. And would you believe, only a couple of weeks ago on TripAdvisor, our Aparthotel in Berlin was categorized as the #1 property in Berlin of over 600 hotels. So that's something, all the efforts of Keith and Tom, our CEO, to have us all focused on that has been underpinned by a lot of work. And we also have a group quality manager, Rhonda Meehan, who you would have met before as well, who've worked tirelessly to get us there. And I think going forward now, never has that message been more important, because guests, that's uncertainty. And if I obviously our brand language with ISAAP, the stay with confidence promise, I mean, that's a huge thing right now for people to feel. If we are going to attract people to travel again, we need to make sure that the safety protocols are in place for people to have the confidence to come back and travel and visit us all again. So I think, it's constantly changing. In addition to things like that, we launched, James, as you might know, our Stay Sweet loyalty scheme last year. We celebrated our first year anniversary at that. We've been delighted with the numbers. I think we're kicking currently about 40,000 plus members 1 year later. We felt that probably would have been stronger. We would have hit the 50,000 mark only for back in March. Things obviously slowed down a little bit. And then, as you mentioned earlier, with the launch of Wild, our new premium brand product, that was a huge statement by the company as well in terms of exciting the customer and keeping, putting something new in front of them and appealing. And then the other thing is, our locations, like as at all those ISAAP conferences I would have attended with you, a lot of our focus was on the UK, and that still continues to be the case, particularly London and Manchester. And now it's nice to be able to see that the Staycity brand, whether it's by our core brand, Staycity Aparthotels, or our premium brand, Wild Aparthotels, expanding into territories like Berlin, into Venice, Marne-la-Vallée, right by Disney Paris. This is great to see. And then we've more new openings, as I mentioned, in Bordeaux, coming ahead, Stuttgart, Nuremberg, Frankfurt, and more coming in London and Manchester. So it's great, I have to say. Yeah, no, it's really.
Well, congratulations to you and everyone at Staycity. Clearly, it's working. It's amazing having you supporting us and the work that you're doing to help us get this message out there. So thank you, Jason, ever so much for your time today. We really appreciate that. And may this expansion and may all your efforts pay off over the next few years.
Indeed, and listen, hopefully one day again soon we'll get you over here in Dublin. We've been promising ourselves that pint of the black stuff, so we need to make that happen. When this thing goes away and leaves us all in peace, I look forward to that day.
Deal.
Okay.
Take care, Jason.
All the best, James. You take care. Bye-bye.